Pope speaks of his shame over the Catholic child abuse scandals he's met victims, and in an address said he was gravely concerned by the immense suffering that had been caused.
Above all, I express my deep sorrow to the innocent victims of this inexplicable crimes.
We welcome it with a huge dose of skepticism, because an apology does become meaningless unless actions follow.
It's been a day of protest against the Pope's visit. But tonight, thousands of Catholics gathered for a prayer vigil in Hyde Park. Also tonight, a call for harmony as the Liberal Democrat conference begins. Nick Clegg tells his party to enjoy being in power. Allegations of election fraud again in Afghanistan in a vote seen as a key test for the president. And cricket's governing body launches an investigation into new claims for betting scam by unnamed members of the Pakistani team. Good evening. The Pope has expressed his deep sorrow for the child abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. On the third day of his state visit to Britain, Pope Benedict said the unspeakable crimes have brought shame and humiliation on the Church. He also met 5 people who were themselves victims of abuse. There were protests over the visit earlier in the day, but tonight 80,000 people attended a prayer vigil in Hyde Park. Our special correspondent Alan Little has been following the day's events.
Another clamorous crowd confound those who predicted that this papal visit would be anticlimactic. Pope Benedict came to Hyde Park to lead them in a prayer vigil. Again, he railed against the local tendency to denigrate religion. It is the prevailing message of his visit. He spoke of the absolute truth of God's word, of what he called the objective reality of Christian revelation. Today there was another objective reality to confront. At Westminster Cathedral, he came to speak of child abuse in the Church. No ecumenical compromises for Anglican friends today, but a retreat to the familiar certainties of a pure Catholic way of worship. In the square outside, more than 2,000 Catholic youth from around Britain. And it was before them that the Pope chose to issue this apology.
We do, I think, of the immense suffering caused by the abuse of children, especially within the Church and by her ministers. Above all, I express my deep sorrow to the innocent victims of these inexplicable crimes.
Outside, the young greeted the 83-year-old pontiff with an affecting, open warmth. Pascal Uche spoke for them.
And on behalf of the Catholic youth, of this great nation, I would like to express my profound and heartfelt gratitude for your visit. Thank you, and may God bless you.
But it is the Pope's outspoken remarks on child abuse that will resonate most widely.
It's an explicit apology, a heartfelt mea culpa issued on behalf of the Church. It's also an acknowledgement of the damage done to the Church's standing, its authority, and the trust in which it's held.
In central London, the protesters were gathering. Thousands marched to condemn the Catholic Church on its attitude to condom use, homosexuality, and child abuse. As a teenager, Peter Saunders was abused by 2 priests. Is the Pope's apology enough?
The Catholic Church has to cooperate with the civil authorities around the world to hand over all information that they have about abusing paedophile priests. They have to institute proper child protection measures in every Catholic diocese and every Catholic parish throughout the world. That isn't happening at the moment, and the Pope has to make resources available for victims and survivors of abuse.
In private today, the Pope met and apologised to 5 people who were, as children, abused by priests. Pope's spokesman described them.
There is always a very profound emotion because from the victims it is to express again a story, but in a particular situation, because the Pope is listening.
And in central London tonight, the protesters were outnumbered easily by the pilgrims, those who have kept the faith, come what may. Alan Little, BBC News.
Well, Robert Piggott at Westminster Cathedral Forest now. Robert, what is the significance of what the Pope said today on the subject of abuse?
Well, I think the language was intriguing. He talked about all of the church feeling the shame and humiliation of sex abuse. I think it was a move towards taking corporate church-wide responsibility for the scandal rather than blaming local churches. He also called it a crime rather than a sin term that's been used in the past, which by application can be sorted out by the church internally with discipline. But I think that he had this intriguing meeting with 5 victims of abuse. Someone who knows them said they weren't angry, but they had anger in them. And I think that a lot depends now on how they report their meeting with the Pope. But of course, the Pope is talking to the general public over the heads of victims groups, not just to them.
Bearing in mind the controversy ahead of the protest today, how do you think the Vatican will assess the visit so far?
I think they'll be very pleased by the huge amount of television coverage. It's giving the Pope the chance to appear as a pastoral, caring man, not just as the dry academic, authoritarian teacher. And I think the visit to the old people so was particularly telling, because it gave him the chance to say that old people like himself are still valuable even if they are bedridden and disabled and very old. And he said that really people had that value and that was a universally shared view. So basically the message is you don't have to believe in Catholic dogma or even go to church to think that it's important to have a body like the Catholic Church standing up for those basic morals.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Well, a little later in the programme, we'll be looking ahead to the Pope's visit to Birmingham. Meanwhile, police who've been questioning 6 men arrested on suspicion of planning an attack on the Pope say they now believe they posed no credible threat to the pontiff's life. Scotland Yard said it carried out searches of residential and commercial properties in connection with the men's arrest, but nothing significant was found. The 6 men, all street cleaners, are still in custody. The Liberal Democrat conference has opened in Liverpool, with party leader Nick Clegg calling on party members who were uneasy about the coalition with the Conservatives to enjoy being in power. Mr Clegg said the government was finally putting liberal values at the heart of British government. Political correspondent Gary O'Donoghue reports.
It would have been alright if he arrived on a bike instead of a government jag. If that's the biggest hitch this week, he'll be a happy man. Outside the hall, a small group were making their feelings heard about the coalition. Inside, seemingly no such doubts. With the Deputy Prime Minister claiming a raft of victories in the first 4 months.
4 months in which we've made huge progress in delivering the changes you have campaigned for. Election after election, night after night, doorstep after doorstep. I want everyone in this room to just stop and enjoy this.
Though one poll tonight suggests that the electorate might not be enjoying it. 52% of people who voted with them saying the party had sold out. Activist Grove was still optimistic.
Well, I think with the party card, I think we do have to huge amount of democracy we are getting.
The coalition has set its programme of government, and it doesn't stop us disagreeing on other things outside that programme.
This party has waited a long time to see its leader in power. You can see how happy they are about it. But Nick Clegg knows we move too far away from core Liberal Democrat values, and this joy is disappointing and disillusioned. Gary will continue to use the Lib Dems in Liverpool.
There's been sporadic violence in Afghanistan, where voting in parliamentary elections has been taking place today. At least 14 people have been killed in a number of attacks, some involving the Taliban. Turnout appears to have been low, and there have already been reports of fraud in an election which is being seen as a test of credibility for the Afghan President Hamid Karzai. Correspondent Ian Pannell reports from Kabul.
They've been threatened and intimidated by insurgents and other candidates.
Yet hundreds of thousands of men and women still turned out to vote for the country's next parliament. Even Even so, this election has been far from perfect. There was confusion and anger as voters compared fingers. There's closer to be marked with indelible ink to stop multiple voting, but in many areas that simply didn't happen. Turnout appears to have been low, and here's why. Bombs, bullets and rockets were targeted at polling stations across the country. The Taliban, true to their threat, to try and stop people from voting. More than 10 people lost their lives today, others were injured. The cost of trying to bring democracy to Afghanistan.
It's going to take some time before the results of this election are known and before a judgment can be made as to how successful it's been. What is clear for now is that there have been widespread attacks, that many people have been too afraid to vote, and that some candidates have deliberately tried to rig the results. If all this seems to happen with significance and scale, it's going to be a blow not just to the government, but also to Britain and the other countries that support it.
But for Britain's ambassador here, despite the violence, today has been an important step forward for Africans.
And here we see them taking control of their own destiny, and that's important for us. A relatively stable Afghanistan is in Britain's national interest because we don't want it once more to become a haven for terrorism.
The international community has bankrolled this election. British troops and others were deployed to allow people to vote. Anything less than a credible result will make their mission even harder to achieve. Ian Pennell, BBC News.
Cricket's governing body, the ICC, has launched an investigation into yesterday's one-day international between Pakistan and England at the Oval. It centres on scoring patterns during particular stages of the match, and it relates to unnamed members of the Pakistani team. Joe Wilson reports.
Thrilling win under floodlights for Pakistan last night, but even in the moment of victory, the ICC were investigating. Their concern is apparently that Pakistan's innings earlier in the day unfolded in a pre-arranged way to allow gamblers to bet not on the outcome of the match but on scores at specific times. Spot fixing. The origin of the allegation is a newspaper tip-off, the ICC stating a source informed the Sun newspaper that a certain scoring pattern would emerge during certain stages of the match. And broadly speaking, that information appeared to be correct. No choice, said the ICC, but to investigate. Meanwhile, the cricket is just supposed to carry on. Both England and Pakistan are tomorrow for the next one-day international scheduled to be crowned on Monday.
There is such a febrile atmosphere buzzing around these games. The investigators need to come in. We need to know these games are clear.
The Crown Prosecution Service is currently considering the cases of 3 Pakistani players already suspended by the ICC for separate spot-fixing allegations. They contest the claims. No England player is implicated in